What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories, and it feels weird not to have a book attached to the avatar. I usually just put up the book in here and be like, oh yes, yeah, the stories are definitely inside this book and everything. But this time around, I'm free. I can walk around and do whatever I want, and maybe do a little dance. Anyway, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Problem player and his best friend dragging the rest of the group through the dirt. Hi everyone, I'm currently playing an offline Curse of Strahd campaign with a few people. We all met over a rather large Discord server where we all applied on the DM's campaign over he posted there. Needless to say that I should a spoiler warning for Curse of Strahd here. A few sessions in, my friend told me that she also interested in D&D and asked if she could take a seat for one of the sessions as audience. Halfway through that session, we all asked her if she would like it so far and she wanted to join the group. She agreed, so the current group composed as follows. DM, male 30-ish, furthermore referred to as a DM or the DM. Sorcerer, male 20-ish, furthermore referred to as sorcerer for the problem. Is this going to be just a thing? Are we just going to be furthermore referring to people as like their class and stuff? I mean, if that's what we are, then I'm just going to continue going. Cleric, male 20th, furthermore referred to as... You really don't have to say that. We could just be like, Cleric, male 20, and that's it. Fighter / Paladin, after his first character died. Male 20-ish, furthermore, you don't have to, dude, you don't have to do this. Just fight a Paladin 20, and that's it. And just move on. You don't have to say furthermore refer to, I think I can infer that. Ranger, female 20th, furthermore refer to, I'm not reading all that. Warlock, non-binary 20-ish. Moving on. The Sorcerer Cleric as well as our DM bring a bit of experience in D&D to the table. Our DM had run multiple campaigns and Sorcerer and Cleric have taken part in multiple campaigns themselves and knowing each other over some time beforehand. A few sessions in, before Ranger joined us, our neutral good Sorcerer starts screwing around. We entered the basement of the Death House and started investigating the whereabouts of the monster the children referred to. After some puzzle solving and minor encounters, we entered the boss room and defeated the boss. On our way out, we decided to investigate a few rooms we left out. It was then when our problem player started running ahead into multiple rooms, opening doors and touching suspicious items without hesitation. That instance of tomfoolery led to Sorcerer and Fighter dying after Sorcerer tried to pick up a suspicious crystal orb. Luckily, our DM had some second life options for our characters where they'll get 2 or 3 new traits they can come back to life. So Fighter becomes neutral evil and gains 2 spells, and Sorcerer becomes a Dragonborn and his mage hand is enforced. After we left the Death House and Ranger joined us, we made our way to the next town. Getting there, we get the offer to guard a VIP safely to leave the land of Strahd influence since he wants to make her his bride. The group discussed a bit about it, but our Sorcerer and Cleric have the most experience, we just go with what they suggested. So leave the town and head to the next one, but not without Sorcerer pissing off a shopkeeper. On our way to the next town, we encountered the windmill with some hags in it. Our Sorcerer decides to screw around with a hag at the door, and we all have to join the fight. This leads to Ranger and Fighter getting caught and cursed by the hags. They shall bring her each one child in exchange for their pastries. Meanwhile, Cleric, Sorcerer, our VIP, and me made it to rather unharmed. We reunite at the next long rest and we head to the town of Vallaki. I'm seeing a pattern where Sorcerer gets everybody else in the party in trouble, not only getting themselves in trouble, but the Fighter and Ranger as well. Now apparently Ranger and Fighter need to bring a child to the hack for pastries. I'm assuming it's to be uncursed. Why are you not saying anything about the Sorcerer doing this? I feel like this would be a perfect time to say, hey Sorcerer, please stop getting us in trouble. From the shopkeeper to the murder house to everything else to the hag. Like, can we please stop this? It feels like they're constantly getting you guys in trouble all the time. In Vallaki, we go to do some trading, collect some quest options. Then we discuss again what to do. Sorcerer suggests to go to the winery. I argue against it because of breaking the curse, so Ranger and Fighter has priority. Cleric steps in and sides with Sorcerer, convincing us to agree on the plan. On our next long rest, the curse starts to chip away max HP of Ranger and Fighter. We still continue on the winery quest. We somehow survive the fight with the druids in the winery and back to Vallaki. We get ambushed by a werewolf and a Ranger gets infected. As a consequence, she chooses exile in the nearby Vistani encampment until we'll find a way to cure that. After that, we discuss again that we should just exchange pastries for children to break the curse. Cleric and Sorcerer talk to us, Ranger, Fighter, and me down to say they won't do it, although it might be the best for the group. Sorcerer's character doesn't really care for Cleric's argument that it is against his morale. The chipping of max HP continues while we head to investigate on another case, leading to Sorcerer setting a house on fire, pissing off the local guard. We alert the Major's first mate, who rages at the side of our VIP, demanding to hand her over. As we won't budge, we'll get exiled from Vallaki and invite over to Strahd's castle. Okay, I feel like you guys have a problem here with a sorcerer. The sorcerer doesn't see the rest of the party as a priority and kind of just wants to do whatever they want to do. And that, in my opinion, is a problem play behavior. The fact that y'all aren't addressing it in-game is a bit of a concern and a problem, because constantly, sorcerer does X, party's in trouble, but sorcerer doesn't want to clean up the mess because they really don't care. So I feel like it's kind of a problem here. The party is not a priority for the sorcerer. They're not being a team player. They're actively screwing the party over with their antics or choosing not to fix their mistakes. I think somebody should have probably spoke up early on and said, this is your responsibility. You made the bed. Now you gotta make sure you cleaned it up. Less of making the bed and more like the sorcerer just dookie it all over the bed and everybody has to just sleep in it. And clearly somebody needs to clean it up. And sorcerer's like, I ain't cleaning up the dookie. I'd say other words, but I can't because of YouTube. Let's continue. Inside Strahd's castle, we had a session without sorcerer as he couldn't make it, but said we can play without him. We look for an exit. The entire session went vastly different than every session before. Our cleric always stated it was his bad day and he asked us to make decisions. So we actually sat together, working on actual solutions and arguing in normal matter. The session before, you couldn't even hear your own thoughts as sorcerer and cleric tended to get really loud and annoying over time. This was more like how I wanted our group to function. Then we came across the chapel where we all touched a mysterious figure standing over the altar. Nothing happened to us all except our neutral evil fighter taking 54 radiant damage, ending him instantly due to his reduced max HP. He accepted his death, although he was visibly upset about it, and made a new character. Is this just a thing that happens in Curse of Strahd? If you get cursed, you touch a random statue and then just burned in radiant flames. Is that a thing? Curse of Strahd sounds like it would be painful. I don't know. It's not everything I've seen so far from Curse of Strahd. Maybe the writing is just really good and the whole thing is amazing, but everything I hear from Curse of Strahd, it sounds like it's just always boils down to chaos and bad. Next session with the complete group again, we headed down to the catacombs. We united with Paladin, Fighter's new character, went ahead to investigate. The whole time things went again, only how Cleric and Sorcerer wanted with them taking us down. We then decided to just have a short rest on our own and then leave the catacombs again to look for the exit on our own. To that, our Cleric just commented that this was the dumbest idea he ever heard. I feel like when you put Cleric and Sorcerer together, they kind of become like a group dynamic of like bad, because you have antagonist and another antagonist. When you remove one of them, Cleric is like, I'm not really feeling to do it, and party can actually function properly. But as soon as you put Sorcerer and Cleric together, like a big ball of chaos that kind of ruins it for the rest of the party. At least that's what it feels like to me. We then had the longest short rest in all of D&D, as we had to endure Sorcerer and Cleric aimlessly puzzling around with the crypt and what they could mean. So they stayed in the catacombs while Ranger, Paladin, and I looked for another exit. Halfway up the stairs, Cleric and Sorcerer caught up to ask Ranger to do something experimental, as Ranger plays a small tabaxi, which came convenient for squeezing around a bronze statue. We told him to screw off and do their crap on their own. We then headed out and found an exit and are now standing at the gate of the castle. Meanwhile, Cleric and Sorcerer found out they found a legendary magic item and bragged about them being the main characters. But in reality, they found this item back when they were all together, and the crypt puzzling brought nothing but wasting 3 hours IRL. They then got ambushed by some undead. Cleric got reduced to 0 HP, while Sorcerer ran for it to distract them and run back to heal Cleric later. That's where we ended session, and Cleric had to roll death saves behind the DM screen to determine whether he survives or not. The whole situation really drains a lot of energy from Ranger and me. I also talked to Paladin about how he feels in the group, which was no surprise, no different from our feelings. Ranger and I both see Sorcerer as the real problem here. He's not only harms 3/5 of the party, but also being a bad influence on Cleric as well. We want to address and solve the issue before they start the next session next week, but we have no idea how to address the situation towards the DM. We also have no idea how to elegantly solve the issue, as we don't necessarily want to kick Sorcerer out of his friend Cleric still being part of the group. So I'm asking for some advice, discussion here. How would you handle this issue? Well, the first thing is to address the problem immediately with the DM. The three of y'all, without including Sorcerer and Cleric, need to talk to the DM directly and let him know your grievances, exactly why you don't like Sorcerer and why you consider Sorcerer being a bad influence on Cleric. Whenever Sorcerer's not around, Cleric is kind of chill, extremely docile, but otherwise perfectly fine. But as soon as Sorcerer's in the mix, they influence Cleric to be this big ball of energy, and they both kind of work against each other and against the party and sort of ruin it for everybody else at the table, which is never fun because you basically have one person basically just being a dickhead to everybody else, and then somebody else is joining in the dickheadery. Is that a word? I don't know. It's a word now. They're joining the dickhead squad just to try to screw over the rest of the party, and just because they don't care for the rest of the party, they want to do what they want to do. They don't care what the rest of the party wants to do. So therefore, they'll continue doing whatever the hell they want to do because that's the priority for them, apparently. If those two are indeed like a group, right? If they, let's say, for example, two buddies, if one leaves the other one does too. Honestly, gang, so be it. I would say get rid of both of them. Get rid of Sorcerer and tell Cleric, listen, you don't have to leave. I get it too, buddy, but we're having a good time with you. If you want to stay, stay with us. If Cleric chooses to leave because they kick Sorcerer out, so be it. I think y'all would have an easier, way better time just not dealing with Sorcerer or even Cleric at this point. If Cleric wants to stay, go for it. Perfectly fine. But if Sorcerer is going to be constantly a problem and a thorn at the party's side and doesn't want to cooperate, what's the point of having him there? Because whenever you guys didn't have him there, y'all could actually think for once and actually talk and communicate and do stuff together. But as soon as Sorcerer comes back in, it's chaos and nobody can communicate because it's whatever Sorcerer wants to do. It doesn't matter what everybody else wants to do. It's whatever Sorcerer wants to do. What I'll personally say is do yourselves a favor and just get Sorcerer out. If you have to deal with Cleric leaving as well, then so be it. The three of y'all could just continue together, honestly, or find other replacements, who knows. Either way, that's my personal advice. People watching the video, what is your personal advice for the OP? I'm not sure if they'll ever see the video. I would like to see what you think would be the best situation in this story. Let's get to the next story for today. Bum 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 bum. Sorry, I'm just looking at the jinglies. Let's get to the next story. The worst player I've ever encountered. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since 4th edition, and that time I've encountered a lot of problem players. Yes, I've sat down and thought about if it was me several times, and on some occasions, I was the problem. OP realized they aren't perfect, but this one player a few months back struck me as disconnected from reality. It would be better off playing Baldur's Gate 3 instead of a cooperative storytelling type game. So let's set the scene. The module is Mad Mage. The player, who hadn't been a problem before, I had invited to the campaign where I was learning the DM for the first time. Let's call her Becky. Becky sounds like a very sassy player kind of name. Like, Becky, my name is Becky, and I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm the main character. Snap, snap, snap. Like a very sassy, like a very sassy player. Let's continue. Becky has a problem. The problem is getting her to interact with your world in any way outside of how she wants to interact with. Now, OP fully realizes this sounds like railroading. It's not. I like to give my players free reign of the world. But oh my god, could Becky not be bothered to engage with the campaign? And if she could be, she would complain the entire time. For example, I have a noble NPC. Nobles are evil and go into hell. Said noble NPC offers to pay them to go into a tower. Insert tragic backstory having 7 kids and a sick father at home, and a useless baby daddy. What I don't understand wasn't dumped or why Becky would create a character like that in a campaign. Wait, what? Hold on. I need to reread that. So they meet a noble. She says, nobles are going to hell. And the noble offers to pay them. And she talks about having a tragic backstory, having 7 kids and a sick father at home. And uses, is Becky just a ghetto gal? Is Becky just a ghetto gal? What? I'm very confused about why that even matters. Like, he's like, I will pay you. I have 7 kids and deadbeat baby daddy. Okay, but do you want the money for completing the quest? What? Said player challenges NPC to a duel to prove her skill, gets her ass kicked twice and proceeds to whine about it. Threatens to kill said noble NPC. Threatens to not heal noble NPC if they adventure together. Okay, so this, I'm just trying to imagine this whole thing playing out on the table. Hello, my name is Noble NPC. All Noble NPCs can go to hell. That's cool and all, but I want to pay you to do a quest. I have 7 kids and a deadbeat baby daddy and dad to take care of at home. Okay, well, can I still pay you to do this job for me? I want to fight you. I want to meet you in the middle. Okay, I guess we could do that, but we could talk about payment after. Challenge ensues. Becky fails. No fair. I'm gonna kill you for getting me. Okay, I still want to pay you money though. I'm not gonna heal you either, you jerk. I hate nobles. That's fine. Can I still pay? Why is the noble still dead set on paying Becky? Becky sounds like a challenge. Why is Becky choosing to be a challenge, right? Like, it's not even the DM setting a specific challenge rating or something, right? It's not like a climbing check or persuasion check. Becky is herself. She has her own DC of 99.999 because she's literally impossible. So far I was thinking, oh, she just hates nobles. I get it. OP realized we say eat the rich for a reason, but this is a fantasy setting. As a fantasy setting, why do I have to include real life problems? Why should I be forced to include racism or classism? Why can't I make my world be better than our reality? You're not doing that though. Becky is doing that. Becky's bringing in that she has 7 kids, a deadbeat daddy, baby daddy, and a dad that's sick at home and stuff. You're not doing any of that. That's what Becky is doing. Becky is bleeding in stuff that completely unrelates to the campaign. You know, I don't think Becky knows what fantasy is. I don't think Becky knows that you can just make a tiefling, even though IRL, I'm not a tiefling. Or you can make an Aasimar, Aarakocra, Genasi, Thrycorrine. You could be a freaking bug for all you care with telepathy. Like, you could do crazy things in D&D. You can play all kinds of crazy ass characters and make whatever fantasy you want to make. But instead of playing fantasy, Becky's playing reality, and she wants to play as ghetto trash gal called Becky with 7 kids, a sick father, and a deadbeat baby daddy that left. Why? Why would you want to do that? I'm sure there's some other I'm sure there's some reason why you'd want to play that, but this sounds like, why is she doing this? What's the point? Nope, Becky is just a bit of a dick. I'd found out after the fact another AFAB player in my campaign had specific triggers revolving around miscarriages. Becky, knowing this, goes out of her way to make comments about how pregnancy is parasitic, about how kids are parasites, character has 7 of them, and how quickly she'd have an abortion IRL if she got pregnant. Honest to God, hand on a Bible, all this came to light in the span of 2 days on one session. I quickly banned Becky from my table. She's not allowed back. Yeah, no, Becky's 100% a dick. She's literally she's an asshole, dude. Don't have Becky in your games ever. She's just so antagonistic for no reason in the slightest. Like, why? You know what I think Becky is? I think she's politics pilled. She's too, I want to say politics pilled, but I don't know. Like, some people, they have to live in a little bubble of whatever's going on and whatever like problems going on in IRL and stuff. They got to bring everything into everything they do. They got to think about modern day problems and stuff, you know? They got to take every modern day problems and they can't forget them. They got to bring them all in. My racism, my sexism, my homophobia, they got to bring all this stuff in, you know, eat the rich, everything. And that's their personality, that's their lifestyle, because they watch too much news for no reason. All the injustices, all the sexism, everything bad needs to be brought into the game, and that's her personality. That's what she needs to make her character, because apparently we can have fun with fantasy and just get immersed in stuff. Like, apparently we can't have escapism as in my D&D. God forbid, I can't be a tiefling. I gotta talk about Russian-Ukrainian politics because I'm a Russian. God forbid, Becky. Some people just want to play D&D for escapism and just want to play in a fantasy game as a tiefling. Is that so much to ask? Like, for real, is that so much to ask? On top of that, Becky is completely and utterly an a-hole because she's also going to a player that has phobias about miscarriages and starts talking in detail about it, knowing that the player has full phobias and going heavy into that. That is not a good player behavior. That is an asshole player behavior. Becky is a toxic individual and should be removed from every and all games whenever possible, because they just bring in nothing but misery to everybody else in the game. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.